Hey guys, welcome back to Sad Dad. My name's Dave Abkary and I am a comedian out of Fresno, California, and this is a podcast where I sit down with my fellow funny friends, my fellow comedians, and we talk about dads. Hi, how are you? How's your week been? Been a fun, I don't know, maybe fun isn't the best descriptive word for it for me. I've been feeling kind of like, I'd been feeling a little like unfulfilled creatively lately. And I was like, I need something creative that I can just be bad at. I wanted to be bad at something. I want to be bad at something and I want to be able to get better at it. And I don't know how I landed on it. I guess I kind of know how. I don't know. I've been painting miniatures, like tiny little like miniatures for tabletop gaming. And when I say tiny, I mean it's like, I don't know what it is, like 28 millimeters. I mean, these things are like an inch tall, and I've been doing that this week and I'm like having so much fun with it. And it's just like, it's like cool. I mean, I have a lot of other stuff going, obviously there's the comedy thing and there's the podcast. I'm running 2 podcasts right now, and then there's the music stuff, but that I do, and you guys have heard. But I just wanted something new, and then Photoshop. I've done a lot in Photoshop, and this for whatever reason, I just fell down this weird rabbit hole of watching like YouTubers and like makers. I really like maker channels. Like if you guys ever watch the Adam Savage channel on YouTube, he does like one day builds and that type of thing was sort of like this weird gateway drug. But I was like, I want more. I want to watch more things get made, and I ended up watching these modeling channels, and then that kind of led into like watching guys build terrain for tabletop gaming, like little trees and houses and stonework for like dungeon floors and stuff, and then I ended up on miniature painting, and I was like, I could do that. Like it looks hard, but it's just you need like a basic set of paints, and the minis themselves are super cheap, and you can buy them by the dozens if you want to, and so yeah, I painted a little halfling rogue. Those are like hobbits. I painted a little hobbit, and I've painted a couple of like wizards now. And I've just been like so stoked about this dumb little project that's really just for me. And it's been nice. I messaged a friend of mine last night and telling her about it, and she's like, "This is clearly a cry for help, Dave." And she's a little bit right, I guess, but it's been fun. I've really been enjoying it, and it's just like I said, it just feels good to be really bad at something, and there are no real consequences for it, outside of having a shitty little painted piece of plastic. So I've been working on the faces. The faces are so tiny. They're so tiny. You gotta get in there with your little brush and paint the faces and the little eyeballs. Anyway. Yesterday was Abby's birthday. She just turned 9. I'll have to have her on the podcast soon to talk about that. I'm gonna pick her up today. We went to Cheesecake Factory last night. Went with her mom and her stepdad and her best friend Isaac went along with us. I was like, when do you? I didn't know you liked the Cheesecake Factory. She's like, yeah, we came here once when I was 5 and it was great. I was like, whoa, all right. That really left an impression on you. All right, cool. So yeah, that's really exciting. She got, I felt so shitty. Like last, it was really cool. Her aunt was going to take her on a surprise trip to Magic Mountain, and it was a total secret. I was in on it. Her mom was in on it. And obviously her aunt was in on it. And they were leaving on a Friday. And, I had her Thursday night, and she was making all these plans. She wanted to make all these plans for Friday night with me. Abigail did. And she's like, can we do this tomorrow night, Dad? I was like, oh, we'll see, and I want to do this. I'm like, oh, okay, well, we'll see, knowing full well that whatever plan she was wanting to make, we wouldn't do because she was leaving. And then And then the very next day was Grandparents' Day. That Friday that she was going to leave for Magic Mountain, during the day at school was Grandparents' Day. And they give the kids the option, if the grandparents are cool with it and the parents are cool with it, the kids can leave school early with their grandparents. And my mom calls me and she's like, hey, is it cool if Abigail comes home with us? And I was like, no, absolutely not. I did film my mom. Ryan's picking her up after school. And I was like, you cannot tell Abby that. And she can't know. Abigail gets really upset when it's a day for me to pick her up and then her mom has to pick her up. Abby gets really upset when plans change without her knowledge, and so that day her mom picked her up instead of me, and she was all huffy about that. I just felt like a real jerk is what I'm getting at here, guys. I was being a real jerk. I just had to trust that once she got the surprise revealed that all of this shitty behavior on my part as a dad being a real jerk was going to pay off to a surprise trip to a theme park for her, and it ended up working out. But man, it was hard. It was hard just telling her no and for no apparent reason. So I don't know. That's been this week. Cool guys. I have a super cool guest for you today. Very funny comedian, Jenna Cortis, and we have a real lively chat here. It's the first part of this episode. I really enjoy. It's real enlightening for me. I got a lot out of this entire conversation. The whole episode is great, but the first part in particular was really interesting to me. Jen and I we talk a lot about sexuality and sexual identification, and Jenna had recently gone through a little bit of a crisis over that. And we get into all of that. And it's really one of those things that I really like about this podcast and not being, so rigid on my own premise about a dad-based podcast where we talk about dads. Well, it's sometimes we talk about, addiction and sobriety and sexual identity and the sexual spectrum. So I really appreciated how candid and open and honest Jenna was about the whole thing, and wasn't something I had planned to get into with her, but I'm really glad we did. And it was something I had a lot of questions about. So it's great. So cool. Without further ado, let's just jump in and do the darn thing here, huh? Guys, here we go. Jenna Cortis. Oh, the H6?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I know. I just use it handheld.
Yeah. I got that. Yeah.
But this is so much cooler.
Yeah, I used to have a really overly complicated nerdy rig where I had a mixing board and my laptop running and then the mics, and the problem with that is there's just more things that can go wrong, whereas this thing is just turn it on.
This is cool. This is really cool.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, you could if you have it. That's
the most expensive piece.
Yeah, you can
I have that.
Yeah, and you can get some shitty microphones and just slowly upgrade as you go along.
This would be really cool. My podcast partner and I have been on a hiatus since January.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna.
Dude, yeah.
I'm gonna take a picture of this little rig here.
Yeah, it's really this, and really the mics are kind of expensive. These are $100 each, but everything else the pop guard, that's $7. These little things are $12. The little cantilever arms. This is $15. It's cool. Really, the barrier to entry is not that. You know what I mean?
Great.
It's not that bad.
Love it.
Yeah. You guys, what do you record on now?
I just have so the handheld has the attachments
right.
on it.
You just
so we just use the left right.
Yeah. That's great. It's great for recording sets and everything. I use that.
The only thing is if you listen to it in headphones, then the voices move.
Oh yeah, that's a little
weird. So that's not great. But
no, whatever.
People will be in their car you're coming from one side, now you're coming from the other side.
I think I asked you this last night. This is your first time to Fresno?
It is my first time to Fresno.
I haven't gotten to show you much of it yet.
No.
You got to see Clovis.
Yeah, I got to see Clovis.
And you got to see my house. Oh, you saw the bus station.
Saw a lot happening at the bus station. Yeah.
That's exciting.
It was a lot. It was a arduous journey from LA to here.
And you guys made a friend?
We did make a friend. Of our own volition, perhaps not, but she insisted on flipping her hair into Dustin's face, and then she also asked for food, and I locked eyes with her one point, and she said, "Children are loud." And I was like, "Oh no,
you're not wrong, but this is weird.
I don't want to bond with you."
Jeez, that's wild. She's just looking for. Well, you got one of those faces. You're very friendly. You have a good energy. You have a very warm energy. I could.
Thank you so much. I lock eyes with a lot of people by mistake, and I just don't have it in me to say, please go away.
Instantly regret it. Yeah. That's good. You said you have a podcast.
Yeah, I do have a podcast, and we're in talks to get it reignited, but the podcast is called Two Broke Gays, and it's with my writing partner, podcast partner, Kevin Sullivan. And on it, we just interview comedians who are actors, musicians, really anyone who came to LA to do something. Yeah. And, isn't doing it yet. So it's like, how do you make it work? What are your broke hacks?
Oh, that's cool.
And Kevin and I are very opposite. I am, I'm really into structure, planning. I like things to be color coded, and I like to be home, and he's more of a man about town.
Sure. Yeah, I
Goes
get that.
by the seat of his pants. I might look at his Instagram. He's in Vegas with friends, and I'm like, that is not where I'm at. If I'm going to Vegas, I will know about it weeks in advance.
Yeah.
So we're getting that started again, though. We had complications in January. His father passed away, so he has had, a lot of struggles. He has 8 siblings, so 9 kids, and then also I had like a sexual identity crisis.
Yeah, you've got some great material about that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, but I was also like, well, I don't know. You had to leave that up to her to talk about.
I'm now at the point where I can talk about it, but obviously, like I was saying last night in my set, I really doubled down on like lesbian identity. My podcast is called Two Broke Gays,
right?
And what do you do when you find yourself with a boyfriend then?
Yeah. I mean, is that one of those things where you like reevaluate where you're at on the spectrum? Like, I mean, do you identify as bisexual now, or where do you?
I actually don't. I don't know. There's like the Kinsey scale of sexuality and everything, and it's like I'm actually, I think, like a 6 on it, so pretty gay. The boyfriend of it all was a bit of a fluke. Sure. But it did teach me a lot about like my own bigotry in the community and just trying to label everybody and figure out where they go. It really is stupid.
Yeah, I mean, not to like step on one of your bits, but I thought that was really fascinating. That bit you have about coming out to your gay friends being so difficult.
Much harder.
Yeah, and coming out as like, oh, I think I might be straight, or it's not even. It's like a weird label thing. What am I?
I definitely don't identify as straight, and it's really nice to be in the relationship I'm in because I'm never asked to strip away that part of me. Sure. Like, it was a huge part of my identity. So, and it still is. So I think that is, it's just a lot of jokes from my gay friends about like, how's straight life? And I'm like, fuck you.
Yeah, that's so funny. I mean, and I feel like more people go through that than, I don't think anybody's really talking about that, because I know I had a lot of friends in my 20s, like lesbian friends that were like, I'm a lesbian. I'm like, you are a lesbian. And they're like, but then, I'd see them talk to guys and then they would fuck guys. And I'm like, do you think maybe like you're, maybe not like a lesbian, and they're like, no, I'm super gay. And I'm like, all right, but now they're all married to dudes. And I'm like, okay, I know nothing.
One thing that's super hard for me about that is I definitely saw that as well. I had a lot of people when I came out say like, oh, this is a phase. You're going to probably end up married, probably to a man. And I was so attached to proving that wrong and saying I know who I am, and you can't kind of
dig in your heels.
Yeah, you can't tell me who I am, but almost to a fault where I didn't really want to explore this relationship at first because I didn't want to. One, I didn't want to upset my very small but mighty fan base. And two, like I didn't want to upset myself. Like I really, it sucks. Coming out sucks. And so like I was like, I didn't want to do all that. And I have a really strong exterior. So I didn't want to develop all these defense mechanisms and put all this armor on,
right.
Only to be like, just kidding.
Yeah.
But, I got a lot of DMs. I posted like a long thing about how it took me 3 months to like come out and say I had a boyfriend. And I did a huge like post about it that was way too long, as is my, my writing style.
Yeah.
Probably could have cut it into a tweet, but it was quite long. And I got a lot of DMs from lesbians saying, I kind of liked this guy, but it wasn't worth it to me to go through that again with my community that I developed.
Right. Yeah, you finally like find your tribe, and then it's like, oh no.
Like, it's like, oh my God, I don't want to be rejected again.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that is sort of the, and it's, you can't, it's hard to argue with a feeling. You know what I mean? Like I feel this way, but there's no right or wrong reason for that. And it's, we want to create these, you again got a great bit about like boxes and labels and and I just think it's how we naturally want to fit. And, and now, with the idea of people like talking about the spectrum and everything, the spectrum by nature doesn't even allow for like lines and boxes and everything else. But even within that, we still want to,
we still want to organize. And I think, even on the show last night, there was 2 people, myself and another comedian who identified as queer, which is happening more and more. And I think that, it's, I think it's a good thing that younger people are a lot more comfortable with.
Yeah.
I have a lot of I worked on this, it's like a web series. It was a mental health web series about kind of teenagers in high school, and there's like a lot of issues in it. And I worked on this with a younger cast and a younger crew. And then when I was going through this, I was like telling them so shamefully, like, nervously, like, I have a boyfriend, and they were all like, okay, like they literally were like, yeah, that's what being queer is. Like, you don't really know who you're gonna meet,
Right. Yeah.
And there was something else I wanted to say. Oh yeah, I read this interesting article that was like basically how the Born This Way argument, which was created as a defense mechanism against like political, stripping away of rights, it can be really challenging for people in the LGBTQIA plus community, because it's like you want so much people to understand that you can't help how you are,
right?
But that causes you to really, like I said, double down on these identities and be like, it's hard to say if you're, it's the argument is like, Born This Way can be harmful to the community.
Yeah. And I think too, it's like, I think the boxes aren't just a societal projection, but oftentimes they're like a personal one, like I want to know what I am, like I don't know what I am, and I think it's just a lot of times you're trying to get a grip on your own reality, and so I could absolutely see like what you're going through right now, how it could really kind of spin you out.
It really did, because I really thought I knew how it was going to go, and I'm a Los Angelian now, so I've got my manifestation. I've got my vision board. Yeah. Like I was like, it's going to be 2 brides, 2 dresses. Yeah. And, my boyfriend's like, I'll wear a dress if you want. So,
it's good that you allowed yourself to explore that relationship though. Because you could be totally cheating yourself out of something great, It
was scary. And that was a lot of the messages I got were like, I went on a date with this guy and I just couldn't handle, what it might mean for me and how I label me, even though I was interested. And I was like, well, I'm very attached to this identity, but I'm also not afraid to say, I had some areas that I needed to grow and learn. And like definitely with like identity and labeling and just shaming other people. It's very popular in comedy. It's very popular in the LGBTQIA community to make fun of bisexuals or make fun of people who are queer, just because, there's this idea that they haven't had the same turmoils socially, maybe, or had to, really throw off some of their privileges. But that's not necessarily true.
Sure. I think you made a great point, too. I mean, you kind of touched on it just a minute ago, but like even this conversation we're having right now, in like 10 to 15 years, we're going to sound like a bunch of fucking dinosaurs.
Exactly.
Like kids don't care,
Yeah. They're they're fine.
Yeah, I mean, there was a bit I was trying to work out at one point about my daughter where I was watching her play with like her friends, and she's like, "I'm Batman," and they were like, "Oh, okay, cool." Like, and then I'm like, "Oh, you mean like Batwoman?" And she's like, "No, Dad, I'm Batman." And I mean, the joke was like, it was like, "Dad, you need to learn to accept the fact that I'm the Knight."
Yeah.
I'm Batman. And,
she seems cool. She seems really cool.
And so, but again, it's just, I think you're right. Like, kids just don't care. Like, you know, I mean, and thankfully we're going to be dead soon. They're going to take
all
over.
of us.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a nanny. I nanny, and one of the girls I nanny for, 7, very profoundly, you know, she said, I'm not really sure what the gender of the person I will love will be, but, you know, I just want them to be really nice to me.
Yeah.
And I thought, like, oh my God, that's so, like, I love kids. I'm like, of course I'm sobbing. I'm like,
it's okay.
literally.
We get emotional. I've cried on this podcast
kids.
plenty.
You're like, I have a daughter. I was like, oh my God, I want 19 daughters. How did you do it?
That's so you grew up in the Midwest.
I did. Yeah, I'm a Michigander.
Michigander? Mm-hmm. That's why you're so nice.
Yeah.
That's probably what it is. What's it like out there? What part of Michigan?
I grew up in a suburb of Detroit called Royal Oak. Mm-hmm. It was a pretty solidly middle class suburb of the city. And you know, my mom worked in Detroit. She worked at Henry Ford Hospital, which is down in Detroit. And my dad has had many jobs. We'll get to my dad. He is a huge part of my life. So is my mom.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I mean, were you a big part of a big family? I mean, do you have
no, it's super small. So we have my mom, my dad, my brother, and I. And so that's kind of it. We have our grandmas. Women in my family live to be like 90, 95.
Really? Yeah.
So, you know, I've got a while till my midlife crisis, I think.
What kind of, I mean, I know you were saying that you're real structured and organized now, but I mean, was that you as a kid too? Or
that was me as a kid. My mom said for the first 2 years, I just sort of looked around and didn't really say much. And then I would sort of drop things on her or be like, my first word was this. I would point to something and say this. And I would want her to tell me what it was.
Oh, interesting.
Just once again, back to the root of the labeling and box. I was like, this. What do we call this? So I was always organized. I think though when I moved to LA, I didn't have any friends. And I didn't really have a job.
Yeah.
And I didn't really have much. Yeah. So I moved there, and it kind of became like exacerbated, that quality of me, as a response to loneliness.
Sure.
So, I went from like being okay, I have a plan, have a schedule, to like psychotic, like every half hour is scheduled in kind of a thing. Yeah. So I'm trying to rethink that a little too.
Sure. I mean,
but that's always been with me. It's part of teaching too, I think, is like color-coded planners.
Yeah.
And
I was going to ask you about that too. So growing up. So I imagine you're probably a pretty good student.
I was a great student. Yes, I was a great student.
I could see that. Mm-hmm. I mean, was teaching one of those things you like knew early on you wanted to do, or like how did you land on teaching?
No, I thought this is a heavy one. This is going to be with me for a while, but I was voted most likely to succeed.
Oh God!
In high school. So cut to 2018. I'm living in a living room. Everything's fine. No, so I had it in my mind that I was going to be like in PR or marketing, and then I took an internship. And in college, I took an internship, and I just got there and didn't really care about it. And then I started working with the Prison Creative Arts Project in Michigan. And it's like an advocacy sort of project network that works with people who are incarcerated to do writing workshops, art workshops.
Yeah, actually, fun fact. That pirate ship is that's prison art.
Prisoner art.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I started working. I had a couple different groups: girls' juvenile facility, boys' juvenile facility, and then I worked with the adult male prison population in Macomb.
That sounds intense.
Yeah, I mean, the weird thing was, the weird thing was that it wasn't weird at all, other than that incarceration is an insane idea as a concept. The relationships were really strong and positive. And, you know, a lot of the men had been there for years and they got incarcerated when they were less than 18 and they're just chilled out, mid-30s, like looking for something to do, really.
Sure.
So our group, they named our group the Writer's Block.
Oh, okay. That's kind of fun.
Yeah, it was cool. And I was graduating when I was working with the Writer's Block, and I worked there for about a year every Saturday for a couple hours. And I was graduating. I was like, I don't know what to do. And they were like, you know, if you really want to make change and try to keep people out of prison, you should teach. And you should teach the youngest that you can handle. And I am not an elementary school person. So I taught middle school.
Oh, right on. Well, cool.
Yeah, I did not know that I wanted to do that, but I always liked school. I always liked being in school, so it kind of.
Do you feel like you were good at it? Like, do you feel like you were a good teacher?
I was a really good teacher.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I was a really good teacher. I think when I started, I wasn't, because I was kind of entitled and a little spoiled, and you know, you're like, I just want to graduate and get out there and get a job, and then you get a job and you're like, I hate myself.
Oh wow. What's the and like? Because I know you bounced around a little bit.
I did with my timeline.
I was gonna say, because I mean, you're in Michigan, and then I know at one point you were.
I was in Chicago. I went there to teach. It was a program right after college. It was just a stipend. They had our housing taken care of us. What? They had our housing taken care of for us. Too many prepositions. And I was a full-time mentor. So I worked in all boys school, south side of Chicago, and I think, you know, I wanted to be of help and of service, but it can be really damaging to just pour young people who are from colleges into situations where they, you know, I didn't really have the chops to handle it. If I could go back now, for sure, but at the time I was just very overwhelmed with being in charge of people. You know.
That's heavy. Yeah. And then you ended up in Las Vegas?
I did. I tried to keep teaching at the school I was at in Chicago, but then I applied to Teach for America, and you had to select a high priority region, and so I selected Las Vegas for my high priority, Detroit, Chicago, Miami, and then I was placed in Las Vegas.
Wow. It's just all the hot spots. It's wild. What was your experience like in Florida? Did you have fun?
Oh, no. I just selected that, but then they told me.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah, they told me where I was going, but I was like, what cities would be what I want to live in? But I never made it there.
And how long were you in Vegas?
I lived in Vegas for 4 years.
Wow. Did you like it?
I did.
I've heard a lot of mixed things about like life out in Vegas.
I really love Las Vegas. I can't recommend it enough.
Wow.
When California eventually cracks off into the ocean, I have full plans of moving back to there.
That's what it will take for you to leave LA.
Yeah, for me to leave LA, it's going to have to be extreme. But it's a great little foodie scene. All the major chefs who quit on the Strip and go open their little restaurants off Strip. Great. They just really take care of locals, I feel like,
cool.
there.
Yeah.
So there's always something to do. There's the Strip if you want it, but it's got kind of that like low key, you can make it your hometown feeling.
Yeah.
An older teacher when I moved there said to me, he was kind of wild and like inappropriate, but he said to me one time, he was like, you know, you're either going to find yourself here or lose yourself here. And I feel like I did both several times.
Hello. Yeah. That's good. Yeah. You didn't say how often.
Yeah. He didn't give me like a timeline on that. You know, the kids were so great, and I just had a really good experience at my school.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And then you made the move to California.
I did.
What was the like
catalyst?
Yeah.
I'll tell you a student story.
Oh, okay.
So this student one day, it was my 4th year teaching, and he said, Miss, it's so awesome that every day you come here and live your dream. And then it just slapped me in the face. And I was like, this is not my dream.
Oh, no. Wow.
I got to go. No, and so I was going to kick around Las Vegas for a little bit and do stand-up, because I had friends there doing stand-up and was kind of a little bit in the local scene. Not much, though. I was not like... You could ask many people, they would not know me. I've
heard that it's tricky. Stand-up is tricky in Vegas because it's like I mean, there's a ton of great clubs, but it's all national acts who,
Yeah.
you know, and you kind of become an inside club guy, but it's hard to get to that spot as a local. And I've heard it can be tough.
Yeah, I didn't see too many people make that jump. Like the amateur shows were great, and the open mics were really fun and stuff. But like, I didn't see a lot of people make that jump to the Strip, like performing on the Strip.
Yeah.
But I think it's getting better now because they opened like
good.
a Comedy Cellar, and I think they're trying to do more like local feature acts and stuff. So
that's great.
I'm not really sure though. I haven't been back. I would love to do some more stand up there. When I was there, I did some shows at like Treasure Island. I did a couple shows at Planet Hollywood. And Sapphire Strip Club, which I've heard is shut down. But I did win $50 in a talent competition there.
Look at you.
It was stand up, for all of you wondering.
So you decided to come to California after this kid unknowingly insults you and crushes your soul.
And my best friend Jill, she was like, look, you can kind of keep kicking around here, but I feel like for an organized person who's really, you know, kind of got my eye on where I want to go. She was like, I feel like you need to just go and you'll figure it out. Yeah. And so I did.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I hear that's somebody said something recently about moving to Los Angeles is just that first year is just absolute chaos and a nightmare, and you don't know what's full on existential crisis.
Oh my God. I remember I moved there in September. In October, I had like pinworms. Do you know what those are?
Oh my God.
Worms in my ass.
Whoa. How does that even... You were eating cat food? What were you doing?
I don't know. It was just the start to LA. It just never looks the way you want it to. I got this bacterial infection on my face.
Oh my goodness.
I was very stressed out. Yeah. Obviously, I had to tell my new roommates I had worms in my butt. Yeah. It just was a rough start.
Yeah. That is a rough start.
Yeah, I was like a celebrity driver for a little bit. I just did odd jobs, and then I got a job working in a consultancy for business school.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, because you're at least going into it with a degree. Like you're an educated professional. Like at least you got that under your belt.
Yeah. It makes it definitely. I definitely have a lot of advantages when it comes to that. You know, I got my master's degree in Las Vegas, and I got my undergrad. I got 2 degrees from the University of Michigan.
I did want to backtrack a little bit because I'm very curious about this. In all of this, like, where does the comedy come in? Yeah.
Great question. I'm like, and then I did this, going over my resume with you. Please hire me for something.
You could push the record button. I don't know.
So I tore my ACL. I was a big athlete in high school. And I could jump really high, and I was like really into volleyball. I'm only 5'4", but I had some gusto back then.
But you're probably a really good setter, and like, I could see that.
I was pretty good, and so I tore my ACL, and then I was like kind of depressed, and I would like sometimes sing the national anthem, and I would sometimes like help out on the bench. But I ended up trying out for a play, and I got a really good role, and then I got kind of into acting. But every time I went to go do anything for acting, they would be like, your comedic is great, but we're just not buying your dramatic. Oh, wow. Every time I auditioned for theater school all over. I went to like New York and auditioned. No. Wow. And then I had taken some improv classes in high school, and so I got to college, and I was like, improv's gonna be my thing. It wasn't acting, but it's gonna be improv.
Sure.
And every place I auditioned, no.
Wow, even with improv.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then my friend said, I saw this booth. It was called the LOL Raffle Club, and I said, I'm gonna go. Okay, whatever. I'll go check it out. And they had no audition process, and it was a stand-up comedy club. Unfortunately, the guy who founded it had done it sort of for a law school application, so it was supposed to be the LOL Raffle Comedy Club for kids. But as soon as he got into law school, we like dropped the for kids and kind of just made it a stand-up club. But it still exists today. And within a year and a half, I was co-president of the stand-up club. I took a couple classes with Chili Chalice, who recently passed away. He used to write for Jay Leno. He'd just sit in the back of the club and be like, funny. Or he'd say, those were the 2 things you could get from Chili. So I took a class there with my friend Ron. We were co-presidents. We put all these shows on across campus. And we helped. I really loved having, like freshmen come in and be like, I don't know, do you think this is funny? And then we'd work on it. We'd all work on it. And I just loved it so much. And I did like one of those like funniest on campus competitions. That was like me and like a billion other dudes. And I was finally down to like top 4. I didn't win. But I think, all those experiences, I just like really loved stand-up.
Yeah.
I mean, from the moment I did it, I really loved stand-up.
And at this point, you're still in Michigan?
Yeah. I was still in college. The first time I did stand-up was like a student performance when I graduated one of Chili's classes. And I just felt like I finally found like the right medium.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of course, I feel like that's the incorrect. I don't feel that way now all the time.
Well, sure. But I mean, yeah, it's good to, it's weird when you're like, I always tell this story. Just didn't. Like I was in in sales for a long time because I thought that's like what I was good at. I was like, I've got a big personality. Like, I'll sell things.
Yeah.
And I worked at CarMax for a long time. I was a car salesman, and like there's this weird like parable that I always keep in my head. Is at the time that I was working at CarMax, I was like towards the end, I was like really really miserable, and I started interviewing for this other job, and I realized that one of my coworkers, Randy, who was really, really, he felt the same way. Like he really just hated the job. And we were both interviewing for the same job. And it turned out they had 2 positions available. And like Randy and I were just like counting down the days, right? Like we were just like, we're almost out of here, man. We're almost out of here. And then we ended up getting to the other job. We got a few months in, and I realized I was like, oh my God, I hate this job too.
Yeah.
But like Randy was so happy. Like Randy was just like a duck to water. Yeah. And I was like, what's like broken inside of me? Like, I don't understand. And like when you find the thing, like when you don't feel like a square peg in a round hole anymore, like even if you have your rough nights, or even if you're not as good as you could be, you at least know it feels good to feel like you're in the right place.
Yeah.
And so I totally like relate to that experience. Yeah. And so what so like coming out of the college circuit, so you just hit the road and
So I moved to Chicago for my job. I was very like, I didn't really think, I wish that I would have, when I was 22, I guess you can't have like, you can't change anything or know anything. But I just wish that I wouldn't have listened to other people who were like, okay, well, yeah, that's great. That's a fun hobby. What are you going to do?
Right.
Because I think that actually stuck with me a lot longer than I wanted it to.
Yeah.
But yeah, I went to Chicago and it was a blur. That year was really hard. And so I didn't do any stand-up in Chicago.
Oh, really?
Yeah. No, I didn't do stand-up. I don't think. Oh, no. I did a show in a basement of a church.
Hey.
Nobody liked me.
Ooh, yeah. That's rough.
But, I think maybe I did a couple other shows around town, but it was all. I went back to Michigan to do one, but it was very sporadic. Then I moved to Las Vegas, and I didn't really do that many shows there either. Until like my 3rd year, because then I was settled in the teaching thing. I had it down. I was like feeling good, I had my plans ready. I was like, okay, I can do this.
Yeah.
And so 3rd, 4th year, then I started picking it up a bit.
Yeah.
But I don't always like the culture of going out.
There's something to that. Yeah.
I don't always like going to an open mic, especially in Las Vegas. It's like I'm going to sit inside for 4 hours, get smoke in my hair, and, listen to a bunch of racist, misogynist shit, and then I'm going to do 4 minutes.
Yeah.
And I've dragged all my friends here.
Yeah. Oh, and they're all here, and they all hate me now.
Yeah, everyone hates me.
I have no
my
more
former friends.
Yeah.
But yeah, I started doing it a lot there, and then I went through a really terrible breakup. My first girl breakup.
Oh no.
Woo! And so from that was like the saddest time of my life, and from that period was born like my other writing partner. Her name's Megan. We wrote a web series called It's a Dry Heat, and it was about lesbian breakups in Las Vegas. And and we wrote it and we made it, and it was that same feeling of like, oh, this is the kind of stuff I want to be doing,
Yeah.
And so I started doing more stand-up, and I felt like I was getting pretty good. And then I moved, to LA, and I this is me in a nutshell. Made this like pact. I'm going to go out 365 days of open mics or shows. A show would count too. And I made it 16 days.
I mean, it's...
I was like, I am going to die.
Yeah, I mean, even then, 16 days in a row is pretty good. I mean, that's nothing to shake a stick at. Yeah. I mean, that's hard for me, and I run 5 shows a week, so it's like, okay.
I mean, that's so much.
Yeah.
I think... I don't do I like the energy of LA, but the competition of you should always be doing something kind of as like a person who already runs that tape through my head. It's really hard for me. And so when I go out and see people and they all know each other, or they go out every night of the week, or they don't have a day job, I'm like, oh, I'm jealous, and don't feel like I fit in necessarily.
Yeah.
But I've kind of found like my people, my little kind of niche to go around with and do stuff.
Yeah, that helps a lot, when you're, especially in such a big pond,
Yeah.
But you're also lucky too that like you've got like there's a lot of comedians in LA. I think I mentioned this on the podcast before, but there's a lot of LA comedians that don't know that they are LA comedians. They just think they're comedians because they've never gone out on
anywhere
the road.
else.
And so they don't realize like how regionally specific everything is. Like I mean, I don't know. Like you're from some small places, like the traffic. People, I mean, there's so many comedians that have so many bits about traffic, and it's like, well, if you're performing in a town that doesn't have bad traffic, like, I don't know if it's really gonna like resonate with these people,
Yeah, you better be able to switch to weather.
Yeah, you better be firing hot.
Have your weather bits ready.
What's the deal with sunshine? Yeah, that's funny. Oh man. Well, you're Jenna Cortis.
I am.
And this is a podcast called Sad Dad.
Sad Dad.
Yeah. And we talk about our dads.
Yeah, I'm so excited to talk about my dad.
Yeah, you have. Yeah, since the moment I pitched this idea to you, you were like super on board.
I mean, he's wild. I don't know where to start. I mean, where do I start?
Yeah, that's okay.
Birth, I suppose you're going to walk me through
I'll walk
it?
you through it. That's
okay.
all right. I got a plan. I mean, it's gonna be the Jenna show, but I'll give you.
Well,
this is my first dad rodeo.
Okay.
I've wrangled me quite a few dads.
Great. Before we start, I want to say that I am often called a dad as well.
Oh, yeah.
My character comp is Mike Wheeler's dad from Stranger Things.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I don't know why, but I was watching Stranger Things with one of the girls I nanny for. My boyfriend had said that I remind him of this dad. And I told the girl I nanny for, and we were watching it, and then the dad goes, "What are kids doing over there?" And she turns to me and goes, "Oh, I get it."
Whoa, she sees it.
She saw it in
That's
me.
not even the cool dad on the show.
No, it's the lame dad who's like sort of checked out, sort of stressed out. I'm like, what are people saying about me? But anyway, so I'm the ultimate dad, but yes, carry on.
No, that's okay. Good. Sweet. Well, where did your dad grow up? Where's he from?
My dad grew up in North Dakota, but he was in Detroit for a little bit.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not sure.
North Dakota.
Yes. Farm, raised on a farm.
Wow, that's really rural. Like that, I got nothing on him. This is rural.
Fresno's got nothing on.
Yeah, but I could throw a rock at the Amazon facility. Like I could hit Amazon from here. That's North Dakota. Yeah. Does he ever talk about what that experience was like, or
not too much? He, growing up was pretty hard. His dad had mental health issues, and his sister died when he was young, so it was really just him and my grandma.
Yeah,
and they lived with these church people who were pretty abusive, like almost like a Child Called It kind of.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So my dad, had a lot of horrific things happen to him.
Yeah, this sounds like the setup to a horror movie. Like
really, which is why I'm always like, what makes you such a good dad?
Yeah,
and he's like, well, I guess I really knew what not to do.
Yeah, there's something to be said about that.
But he, because of like the abuse that he was facing, my grandma sent him away to boarding school. And he said that in Fargo. And he said that was like the best year of his life.
Oh, really?
Because he was able to get out of, all of the chaos at home for a year.
Yeah.
And even though when he got there, the guys like hazed him and broke his radio and stuff, he was still like, it was the best.
Wow. Well, good. And do you have any? I mean, I know obviously that's some pretty crazy upbringing. I mean, I don't fully understand. Like, so, like his mom, him and his mom were living with like
these people they met at church.
Okay, and they were like,
we'll take you in.
She's down on her luck.
Yes,
and let's help him out.
But then they were, very controlling, and if they didn't feel like letting my grandma go out with my dad, they would, sabotage or throw her keys in the bushes, or it was wild.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Wow.
So they left there, and my dad actually worked with my grandma until she was no longer able to work.
Huh.
It was her dream to open a foster care home for women with psychological disabilities. So they did that.
Yeah. Wow. Good for her. Yeah. And do you have any sense of what he was like as a kid? Was he?
Oh, my dad as a kid.
Was he real outgoing, sports type?
No, I think he was quiet.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why I think that. I just think that. I think he was quiet. He was into stuff, but he's a big generalist. Like, he's an expert in something. But he likes to try everything, So there's pictures of him like standing with his swim team. There's pictures of him like in a band. He's
a musician.
Yeah, he's a drummer.
Is he? Oh, that's so cool. Good for him.
I really could go on. Like a drummer, he was an amateur karate fighter.
Yes.
He was an EMT in Detroit for 10 years.
Wow.
He's got a lot going on.
Wow. And they left North Dakota, moved to, that seems like such a stark contrast, like going from...
My grandma, she always wanted to be by water. So she applied for a job with Western Union, and they sent her to the East Coast, and then they transferred her to Detroit.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so now he's the country kid living in the urban. I mean, did he like take to that environment? I mean, do you know?
I think so. Yeah. I think he was really happy to be out of farm life.
Yeah, just around people.
Yeah, around people, and he's a really friendly guy. So.
Yeah, I got you. Was he a good student? Do you know? Was he real into school or?
I have mixed stories.
Sure.
Yeah,
okay.
like some of them are, I think he was kind of like that kid that like vaguely tried, but then would like ace the final. So he always had B's and stuff.
Oh, sure.
But I'm not. I have this image in my head, a story he told me about, the teacher being like, you need to do this work, and he never did the work, but he still aced the final.
Yeah. Son of a bitch. Yeah.
I know. He's one of those. Meanwhile, I'm like highlighting and cutting out and like pasting everything together.
That's crazy. Does he, so he graduates high school. What does he do? Does he go to school or college, or does he, what does he do from there?
I know he met my mom at the hospital.
Okay.
So I'm not sure. I know he went to college, but he went to like law school for a little. It's a little it's a little unclear in my mind.
Sure.
Just because there's so much.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, when was he a karate fighter? When was he in pilot school? We don't know. It's kind of like, it's one of those things where he'll just be like, oh yeah. Like I said something to him and he was like, oh yes, I used to do Reiki. And I was like, what? And then he took a Reiki master course with me. He's all, he knows everything. So he worked at the hospital, I guess post-college it would have to be. I think
that was when he was an EMT, or what was he doing?
So, yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
And he worked there for a long time, and my mom was a microbiologist there. And although she hates when he says this, he's always like, yeah. And then I asked, her friend Scott, who's that hot blonde with the page boy haircut? Or the Dutch boy haircut? The Dutch boy. She's always like, why do we need to call it a Dutch boy haircut? She hates that.
That's funny.
But yeah. And then my mom, I'm not sure, again, foggy, hazy on some details, but then one day he like took her in some stairwell and they made out. And then it was kind of on. She had this other like problematic boyfriend who was dipping around a lot. So my dad said they broke up like 10 times before they got married.
Oh, wow.
I actually have a theory they're not married.
Ooh, I like this.
My mom never changed her last name. It's Wilder. It was the 1980s.
Yeah.
They didn't really ever combine money. They're still together.
Yeah.
And there's one picture of her in a green dress that she says is their wedding photo, but I think she looks like a bridesmaid in it.
Oh, that's weird. Yeah. How bizarre.
I told this to my brother recently, and he was like, I guess it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I mean, we're in our 30s. Who cares, Jenna? Yeah. That's funny. What do you? I mean, obviously he's kind of lived this like eclectic, like Renaissance man kind of life. Do you know like where that came from? I mean, is that from maybe being a lonely kid out in the middle of nowhere, and it's like I want to try everything? Or I mean, do you have any idea like where that came from within him?
I know that it's kind of funny because like I was telling you, and I'm going to get back to the question. I'm going to meander for a second. Sure. I was telling you the other day, like he trains people to carry concealed weapons, and he's he hates being known as the gun guy, but he lives in the gun guy world. Oh, okay. And he's very much in it, and so it's odd because what I was about to say is I think he made a decision when he was very young to be very peaceful. And to be very open and to not get attached to things. Oh, wow. So, he had a lot of like his toys destroyed or his things thrown out when he was living, with that family. And so he sort of took on this Buddha-like response to the trauma. And I think a part of that makes him super open. Like my mom used to dread when people would call the home phone because if he answered it, he could end up coaching soccer for like 10 years. So she'd be like, grab the phone.
Yeah, that's so funny. It's an interesting take on, because if there's a culture that is toxic, and you're someone who is a genuinely like positive person who can put up with those types of people. I mean, it's a great opportunity to like shift that culture from within, rather than, I think you and I are of the same cut where we're just like, fuck those guys. Like, I don't want anything to do with those assholes. Whereas your dad is like, well, let's see if we can affect some stuff from change from within. And I think that's actually an interesting take on it.
He's a really interesting guy, and I think like kind of trying a bit of everything, being open to, music was a big escape for him as a kid, so the musician line makes total sense to me. Sure. And then I think all the self-defense stuff, like I said, karate, he taught karate for a while. He studied with like I think a jiu-jitsu master for a while. So I think all of the self-defense stuff comes from, he wants to be able to protect people and to teach people how to protect themselves. So I might differ on the method, but I understand where that comes from, with how he grew up and then being an EMT in Detroit. He saw really heinous, senseless wreckage.
So, I mean, absolutely. I mean, it's I don't mean to psychoanalyze your dad, but I mean, but it seems like a lot of that probably comes from being like just him and his mom and like being in a vulnerable place and not wanting to ever feel vulnerable again, and always being prepared for, whatever life may throw at them.
And he was also like beat to a pulp one night in Detroit in the back alleys, and he didn't have anything on him, so he was beat within the inch of his life with a baseball bat. And I think from that point on, and what's so funny is I'm saying so many traumatic things. Such a jolly guy. Like literally, if you talk to him, you would be like, "What?" Like, because he's been through so much, but it's not ever. It's nothing he's put on us.
No, that's big too. Because he would have every excuse in the world to kind of like hang his hat on being a dick. You know what I mean? Like, you guys would probably make excuses for him too. Like, oh, dad's having a rough day.
Kind of messed up.
His dad died and his mom raised him, and there were these crazy church people. But the fact that he never leaned on that way, that's great. What was your relationship like with him growing up?
Really great. I definitely, I think as you get older, I was talking to my one friend, she's another creative partner, Kennedy, and we really, I think, clung to and pedestaled our parents for like maybe longer than other people did. Oh, sure. So I definitely, you have that moment where you realize your parents are a real person. Yeah. They're not this sort of mythical, I always just thought of him as like an untouchable hero, and I still do, but, it's been a great relationship. He was the first person I told about, my first girlfriend. And I texted him, which is kind of a weak bullshit thing to do. But I texted him and I said, I have a girlfriend. And I was watching the like little ellipses. And he said, well, if you love her, I'll love her too. Aww. And it's like no question asked ever about supporting me. And has always been, I was a very sick baby. So I think that he was scared I was going to die. And I think my mom was too. I think that's where my sort of like, I'm performing and everything's fine. kind of comes from, you know? Because it's like, I just want them to feel okay about me being okay.
I get that too. Cause I mean, I had, my older brother and my younger brother both struggle with a lot of mental illness, and I was like the normal kid, and like feeling that like overwhelming pressure to be normal. It's like to be normal, because you don't want mom's dealing with your brothers right now. Like, don't be, and so yeah, I get that pressure, and it's a pressure we don't talk about much.
Question for you: do you have trouble then saying when you need something?
All the time, yeah,
because your needs were needs were kind of pushed aside.
Absolutely. Yeah. It takes a lot for me to like ask for help, and then when I do get help, I'm like, we were talking about this the other day. Like, I don't deserve this. Like, I am a piece of shit. I am human garbage. And yeah,
we were talking about that today. Because I was listening to this other podcast where they were saying if there are other people in the family whose needs like supersede yours or whatever, you kind of learn to be not a bother.
Right. Yeah, no, I get that. Yeah. Well, was he sorry, I turned it on you. No, it's fine.
I also have a podcast, so I'm like, what about you?
I'm totally open to that. Was he, I mean, you mentioned like the coaching soccer for 10 years thing. I know you're kind of being joking there, but I mean,
he was my soccer coach.
Was he really?
Yeah, from the Ladybugs, and we were the shittiest team because my dad was, he was very adamant that everyone should get the same amount of playing time. I've never seen people more furious at a man because, there was a girl who was terrible and we were tied. Yeah. And this mother came up to him and said, put in the best player. Yeah. And he said, it's her turn. Yeah. I really learned to lose on the Ladybugs.
Yeah,
we lost all the time. But you know what? It was really fun. And, sometimes I was mad, that he wasn't more of the, like, come on, guys. But in reality, what would that have gotten me?
Sure. And you know what? I watched a bunch of parents like fly off the handle at an umpire the other day. It was so ugly and it was so gross, and I felt so disgusted to be on these people's team. I mean, I hang out with your dad any day, rather than
he's very cool.
Yeah, rather than like gross people that take all this bullshit way too seriously. So
it was good. It was good, but I definitely was like, I got really used to losing a lot. But he was a good coach. It was just he would take anybody, and that's another side effect of his. He got a fortune told to him once that said, "You will always be surrounded by losers and lost causes."
Wow,
and he's really kind of lived up to that. Like he just would take anybody in,
It was that's Saint Jude, like the patron saint of lost causes.
That's him.
That's great. I mean that's awesome. Do you feel like because my dad was always really generous growing up. Like there was always because we have this big piece of property, and like growing up there was always somebody that was like renting a room. There was some like down on his luck, hard times person that my dad was helping out. But sometimes I felt like it kind of got in the way of him being a better dad to me. It's like, I had these weird like feelings of inadequacy as a child. Like, I'm not enough kid for you. Like I'm not fulfilling whatever paternal like feeling you have. Like, if you're trying to like parent these other people too, did you ever deal with any feelings like that?
Only as an adult. I feel I was hyper focused on as a child to the point where it gave me, just really rock hard self-esteem and like, my parents were at every game. Everything I did was amazing. They're like my dad right now. Like I worked a contract job at Disney, and he tells people I'm an executive producer at Disney. So he just lives in this world where I've won, I also lived in that world for a while. But as an adult, I've seen him do things that don't make sense for him. Like let renters stay there who kind of are shitty. And I don't like that they take advantage of his kindness. So that makes me furious. And then I have to remind myself that this is the way he wants to do things. So that's another one of those things of like, our parents are real people, But I not as a child, I didn't have any of those feelings. Sometimes I was like, maybe it's not her turn and we could try to score a goal. But, but no, I didn't have any of those feelings. But as an adult, I'm definitely like, I hate when people are careless with the resources he provides them.
Yeah.
It's infuriating to me.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And I'm also peaceful, but if I perceive an injustice, I'm a monster. I am my dad's always like, I want you with me when I'm in the hospital because the nurses will pay attention.
Do you feel like you get that more from your mom? Is your mom a real fiery lady, or is she?
My mom is so funny. I don't even know how to explain her. I don't know. That would be. I think that's an entire podcast series.
She's a microbiologist with a cute haircut. Okay.
Yeah.
I follow.
No, she's super funny, but she's she's very strict, very worried. She worries. She's worried. She's up. She's not sleeping. She's worrying. That's what she's doing. I forgot the question, honestly.
Oh, just if you get that fiery attitude from your mom.
Oh, not even. Even she is like, calm it down. I have a bit of I was just given too much agency as a small child. So now I'm just flying off around the world. It's great. It's truly
good
great.
For you. What kind of work does your dad do? Like, what career did he eventually land on? Like, what's he?
Well, now what he does is he owns a business where he trains people to carry concealed weapons.
That's right. You mentioned that.
Yeah. And so he does that right now as his main job, but he's very much like my grandma. He's like, I'll work until the day I die because he wants to. And he does he's done trans specific classes before to teach people who are trans.
Oh, how cool.
Or, he works with, he's had a lot of people coming in from Dearborn who are, worried about having to worship at a mosque or who are worried about having to protect their business if they're Jewish. So he's had a whole different kind of influx of people coming in who want guns because they're scared during this time that our country's in.
Yeah, how intense.
Yeah.
Is he a real religious guy, or is he?
He grew up with the church people, and he knows he can recite every passage from the Bible. It's weird, but he never went to church with us. He got confirmed, done with 8th grade, and he never went again.
Wow.
And he's also really doesn't like to put a suit on because he had to wear a suit every day.
Oh, yeah.
And he would be in church for 3 or 4 hours after school.
Yeah.
So
that's so funny because my dad, he grew up more Armenian Orthodox. There's a lot of similarities between Catholicism and Armenian Orthodoxy, but my dad was the same way. Like he just hated it. I mean, because he had Sunday school, he had Saturday school. He was always studying for some bullshit, something. Even after school, and after normal school, he was going straight into church work and stuff. And he just kind of resented the culture, and as a result, he really disassociated from the church. And didn't even want to expose my brothers and I to it. But I always felt like I was, and I get what he was going for, but at the same time too, I felt like I would have liked to be more familiar with that part of my culture. But
my mom came in with the religion, so I'll never. This I guess is a mini dad anecdote.
Okay,
but I really did not want to be confirmed. I was just I really didn't like the religion. Every question I asked, there's no response to, and felt like it was homophobic. I didn't really know at the time that was a part of me, but I was just like, this seems wrong, and it was very anti-women, everything. So I was not gonna get confirmed, and my mom was crying, and I will never forget. I was sitting on the edge of their bed with my dad. He just closed the door and he sat down and he was like, look, sometimes we just do things so mom doesn't cry.
All right, I get it, Dad. Thanks for leveling with me.
Yeah, and he was like, I think this is just one of those times. Just do it. You never have to go again.
Yeah, that's so fun. It's so real too.
Yeah,
I mean that's a valuable life lesson.
And I'm angsty teen. This isn't what I believe. And there's a part of me that's you shouldn't. No one should make you do something you don't want to do. But there's another part that's hey man, sometimes you just do things so mom won't cry.
Yeah. Fair enough, Dad. Thank you. Yeah. That's a more valuable lesson than anything in the Bible you'd have to recite and read. Oh man. Well, yeah, we got a nice little mini dadictote there.
Yeah.
But this is a part where I asked for a regular ass dadictote.
I mean, there is so much. I'm having trouble narrowing. So
that's okay. Through the magic of editing and post production.
Well, I was going to ask.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have like any like topic or question? I want to see if it sparks something.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm fascinated with, I think his martial arts background, I think, is interesting. I think that's kind of a wild thing. Like, was that, like a trendy thing because it was the 70s, or was he, did he have a genuine like fascination with Eastern philosophy, or, you said he was an EMT. Like, how long did he do that stuff?
Okay, I got sparked. So.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, it went away again, though.
Okay, I can keep talking.
Yeah, when you were talking, it came up, and I was thinking about, it was something about martial arts. Oh, I have a cute little story.
Sure.
So, my dad, he studied with this, I think it was jiu-jitsu, I'm not sure.
That was my dad.
No worries.
Drop my cap.
And he studied with his friend Katsumi for many years, who was kind of like his karate master. And, Katsumi and my dad would like practice, and we would go to the dojo and stuff, and my dad would have classes and things like that. I was horrible, and I hated karate. I've been very interested in him teaching me to box, but like less so in karate.
Sure.
I just wanted the belt. I wanted to say I was a black belt.
And just knowing how to throw a punch, and not break your wrist while you do it. And,
But yeah, so he had all this karate stuff. I think he's always drawn to Eastern philosophy because it's collectivism versus individualism, and Buddhism, and a more focus on peace and like meditation and da-da-da. But like I got really into, when I moved to LA, as you do, I got really into tarot.
Oh, funny.
And so I was home, I think maybe last Christmas, and I was talking about tarot, and he was like, "Oh, I've got something for you." And I was like, what could this be? So he like disappears. He drives off. He goes away for like to get something from my grandma's house, and he comes back with this like wooden chiseled box, and inside it's like carved, and all these I don't know, kind of flowers are carved into it. And I open it, and it's this like very traditional Japanese set of tarot cards.
Oh, how cool.
And it was like from the American Japanese Society store, which was at like somewhere he went in the 70s.
Yeah.
And and I was like, why do you have this?
Yeah.
And he was like, I thought I might need it someday. Bit of a hoarder. We love him, but a bit of a hoarder.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Wow. And do you still have them?
Yeah, I still have them. And I've used them a couple times to, do tarot for people and for friends. But it's just he's just that guy who say, I don't know about this. And then he'll be like, hang on a sec.
How much weight do you feel like he would put into that? You know what I mean? Like, was he, was it more than just a curiosity, or did he feel like there was something to some of this stuff, or do you know where his headspace was at and all of that?
I think that he definitely feels like there's something to it, but he's just so open. So he's not gonna really like. He'll double down on something for a while. Like literally, my brother and I were just talking about this for 2 weeks. One time when we were in high school, he was only eating kimchi. So like he gets really into stuff. He raised. I forget what it was, some kind of tilapia in the closet. He had floor to ceiling aquariums.
Wow.
Like he gets really into shit.
What is your mom's reaction to this?
Oh boy,
stuff? Like,
great question,
like, what
Dave.
Is she,
great question.
Like, oh, he's doing this thing now. Okay.
I am constantly in awe of her ability to understand that time is passing, that the passions that will pass. He was kind of that guy who would just show up with a car that he bought that was huge, like an excursion with a lift kit parked on a tiny street. My mom is like mortified, but she is really good at being like, this is what he's into right now, and that's fine.
That's
so
great.
But there were things like this excursion. There are certain things where she'd be like, what now?
She's like, we can't afford this. He's like, no. I've worked it out. I traded something. Like, what?
Yeah. Well, he doesn't trust banks, so we keep the money in assets.
That's so funny. Keep it in assets.
But,
that's so funny. Does your mom have any like quirky hobbies, or is she pretty straight laced, or what does she do?
I'd say she's pretty straight laced. She is She loves to be social. She's in a book club.
Good for her.
She's vacationing. She's kept every group of friends. She has her friends from high school. She has her friends from college. She's got her friends from work. She's got her new friends that are my, brother's moms or my friends' moms. And she just really kind of stays in these groups. So she's always going out to dinner, getting drinks, going to social things. My parents operate very independently, but they're still together. They kind of have like, I don't know, obviously, what their relationship is like, what I don't see, but to me, it seems like the greatest bromance of all time.
Yeah, they seem to get each other. They seem to respect each other and love each other, obviously. And
they kind of leave each other alone with regards to whatever they're up to if it's annoying. And then if it's something cool, they're like, And every night, they're like fist bumping, ordering food, watching Jeopardy. I'm like,
that's adorable.
This isn't bad.
Yeah, that's great. And not a lot, no big old like Christmas arguments or anything like that. That's great.
Yeah, not really. Yeah. I hate to present a lack of conflict for a narrative, but not really. But that's also something I had to learn too, is like how to do conflict, because I never saw anyone do it. So my dad, we no yelling household. The first time someone spoke to me strongly, I was like, what the hell?
What is this? I'm not prepared.
And then I got into comedy where everyone's yelling constantly.
Everybody's screaming. Nobody's listening. And I get it. Oh, that's great. Well, Jenna, you've been an amazing guest today.
You have been an amazing interviewer today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. If people want more Jenna Cortis in their life, where should they go? Where should they find you?
That's such a great question. I guess go to my Instagram for now. Jenna Cortis is my handle. I'm going to get my website up and running. Working on some different shows and things for work. So, you can get nothing on my website right now. Okay. But you can get everything on my Instagram.
Yeah, I'll link your Instagram handle.
And hopefully my podcast will actually be coming back up mid-November.
Hell yeah.
So we are going to come back from hiatus for Two Broke Gays.
Do it. And I think I'm going to be releasing this next week. So hopefully that's close to that release.
Yeah, I'll shoot you the link.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Jenna, thanks so much for being on.
Thanks for having me. Bye.
And we're back. Jenna Cortis, everybody. She's great. Follow her on social media. She's awesome. If you can catch her stand-up, she's just really, really funny. Very talented comedian. I definitely want to have her back up for some more shows. And cool. And you can rate and review on iTunes. We have a few more ratings this week. Thank you so much. I'm running a perfect score right now on iTunes. All 5 stars. That's a little pride before the fall, I feel like, right there. I'm going to get a 1-star review. Don't 1-star review just to be mean. If it's honest feedback, leave a comment. I don't care. Whatever. Who cares? Nobody's paying attention to that bullshit anyway. I mean, people do. I mean, if you're like thinking about getting on a big network, or a network is considering you, they're like, well, what's his iTunes ratings and reviews? And that stuff matters to them. But come out to a comedy show when you get a chance here, if you're in the greater Fresno Clovis area. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Friday, Saturday, we're doing shows here. You can follow me on social media at Dave Apkarian. I post all of the shows up there. And then saddadpodcast at gmail.com. If you need to get a hold of me, you can also just hit me up on social media. That's fine. Just go ahead and text me. My number, no, I'm not going to do that. I mean, if you really want my phone number, just message me. I don't know. I'm not weird about that sort of thing. And then I think that was it. I feel like I had one more thing I wanted to tell you guys, but I should have wrote it down. My table that I record this podcast at is in absolute shambles. It's covered in paint and brushes and washes. I've been making I made a black wash and a brown wash, which is really cool. Like nice little finishing touch for models. It gives it everything kind of like a nice little like highlight and shading. All right, why am I talking about paint? Maybe because I'm gonna paint after I get done recording this podcast and editing it all together and posting it up. I think I'm gonna paint something. I'm gonna paint another Hobbit. But I think I'm going to get a D&D group going again. Now that I have Sundays free, I think I'm going to start dungeon mastering again. So I'm kind of excited about that too. So cool, guys. I will catch you next week. I got a couple of great comics that are coming up this next week. I'm real excited about my first time working with some of them, and I've talked to them all about doing episodes of Sad Dad. So I'm real excited. So cool. I got Joe Welke coming on next week. Well, I'm not sure if I'm going to release his episode next week. I'm definitely going to record an episode with him. But real funny guy out of the LA scene, and Jean Whitney, she's coming up too. So it'll be fun. So I think I'm going to send you guys off with a little different outro music today. A fun little song I've been working on. So cool, guys. Adios.